Right, so we are back again to the four immeasurables, right? The four sublime states, different names to call it. The Pali is the Brahma Viharas, and we are back for round two. Right, last week was the first session, so this is like a filler series on Tuesdays, right? And the main gist or the main framework or the infrastructure is mostly on the Saturdays, right? The Zoom retreat sessions, right? So now we are trying to talk on the different kind of meditation objects more in detail. And today we are going to talk on the benefits of these four immeasurables. Right, so you can, it's extracted from this Metta Nisangsa Sutta, right? So it's on goodwill. So actually the introduction of this scripture mentioned the Buddha is mentioning, right? Metta Bhikkhave Ceto Vimuttiya. Right? So loving kindness, right, can lead to this liberation of the heart or liberation of the mind. So Ceto Vimutti, that's the Pali word, liberation of the heart. So it's very clear, and most of the suttas, right, talk about metta or the four Brahma Viharas being able to lead to liberation, right? So of course there's some discrepancy between post-canonical kind of Theravada scriptures or kind of texts that some of them people might feel that, oh, metta only third level of concentration, then they'll just stop it there. But on the contrary, in the suttas, there's a different take. They talk about the four Brahma Viharas can go to these formless concentrations, which I will talk about it later, and also eventually liberation if done correctly. All right, so here we start these 11 benefits of metta. Right, so there are 11 sort of advantages if you practice this loving kindness or any of the four Brahma Viharas. And today I'm just doing some sales pitch. Right, so I'm like a salesman today. I'm going to tell you the benefits of this loving kindness. Okay, so the first three has to do with sleep. Right, has to do with sleep. Right, so normally for meditation, we don't encourage people to fall asleep in meditation, but loving kindness will help a person to be at ease, right? Be at ease, relaxed, and they can sleep better. Right, so for those who have sleeping problems, then you can try just doing loving kindness only. You don't need to contemplate on impermanence, right? The mind, don't keep it active, right? You're just very nice, very happy, nice, very nice, then sleep ready, right? So this is one of the strategy, but it's not a fast food kind of solution. It requires long-term cultivation. Why is that so? Because all these are habitual karmas, habitual mental habits, right? Just example, let's say an experiment we do right now. Even if we sit right down at this moment and we just let our mind sort of autopilot or let our mind be idle, what kind of thoughts will appear in our mind, right? So these habitual thoughts is running 24/7, right? Including our sleep, right? Daydreaming the same, sleep the same. And how does all these thoughts come to being? Or how are they conditioned to be in this way? Right? Some people may have positive thoughts or very nice, no? Some people may have negative thoughts, unpleasant thoughts, can be worrying, might be remorse, regret, whatever it is. So all these are conditioned by our activities throughout the day. Whatever we do, maybe from the start of the day, all this will affect the thought processes when the mind is idle, right? So all these are, we call habitual karmas being brought forward, right? So that's why earlier on we chanted these precepts. It's just a reminder, you know, to restrain our behavior so that we won't regret our actions, right? So it helps in the meditation. So it's a holistic, holistic approach. So meditation is not about just sitting there and then, you know, clear the thoughts, or just think correctly, or sit in some Instagrammable yoga posture. No, right? It's a holistic kind of system, holistic approach, right? The daily life, the behavior, and all these factors all count. So if a person has a good moral behavior and they have this good intention, no, thoughts of goodwill, so it helps them in the long run. So it creates this momentum, right? So positive momentum. So when you're positive or wholesome throughout the day, you know, even if you're just sitting relaxed and the thoughts will just automatically appear as wholesome, then at sleep, more or less, it'll be the same, right? So it's just, you just need to maintain and feed in all the positive inputs. So that's how it works. So these mental tendencies or habits aren't permanent, right? You don't expect now to be positive, then forever to be positive. No, it requires lots and lots of effort. All right, so the benefits will be sleep happily, wake happily, and no bad dreams. So these are the first three kinds of benefits. All right, and the next two, right, dear to human beings and dear to non-humans as well. Right, so if a person is, let's say, friendly, or have this exude this loving kindness, right? Then naturally, you sort of appear friendlier and more approachable, right, to other people, right? So I give an example. If let's say you are traveling to a new place, a new area, right? And let's say you're on the street and you need to ask for directions. Ask for directions. You're sort of lost. You want to find your area of destination, and you need to ask for directions. So you meet two strangers, right? So stranger A has a smiling face, right? Has a pleasant-looking smiling face, and stranger B is pulling a long face. Pulling a long face doesn't seem happy. So who would you approach, to ask for directions, right? So most probably for most people they will approach, right, the one with the friendlier appearance, right, to first ask for directions. So this is the the benefit of loving kindness. So if you practice loving kindness, this will help in your PR and maybe customer service, right? Your customer relations, your boss, your family members, your friends and colleagues. So this will help you. Right? So it helps in your interpersonal relations. And the next one, dear to non-humans. Right, dear to non-humans. So non-humans include a very wide spectrum of beings. Right. So in the picture you see some of these animals, right? Then, of course, in the Buddhist point of view, in the suttas, we don't actually encourage people to test this loving kindness on wild animals. You don't purposely go to the jungle and look for, the wild elephant, wild snake, and try to say, okay, I practice loving kindness. Make sure you get tamed or listen to me, that kind of stuff. No, right? So in the Sabbasava Sutta, right, the Buddha actually mentioned, right, the monk should actually avoid dangerous animals, avoid them, right? So it's not trying to practice loving kindness to purposely approach them, because for animals they go by fight or flight kind of instinct. So if you scare them, then you get into trouble. So this is the advice. Okay, but generally, if you are just minding your own business, right? Minding your own business, and let's say you have a pet at home, or you have some maybe some stray animals on your way to work or back home, then you might want to try observe, right? See their behavior, any difference if you practice this metta or loving kindness, right? And see whether how they respond. Okay, then for other kinds of non-human beings, like for example, the one on the picture on the right, this picture from this Nightmare on Elm Street, there's a movie, some demons appear in a dream and that kind of stuff. So in Buddhist cosmology, right, there are beings, right, we call it spirits, who may appear to be harmful, who have this malevolent intent, right? So if a person have loving kindness, right, so it kinds of prevents, right, one from being harmed, right, from certain groups, at least to a certain percentage of harmful beings. So I will go to that in more detail later. But as for other beings, okay, we can click on the next slide. Okay, then we have other non-humans such as deities. So these are something like our guardian angels, right? So deities will also protect one if a person practice or cultivates loving kindness, right? So it is said that in heaven, right, there's no chance for heavenly beings to maybe make merit, right? In heaven, there's no poverty, there's no hunger. So how can they do charity? You know, how can they do good, right? In Buddhist cosmology, most of the heavenly beings have we call it a certain lifespan, So after they pass away, right, then it depends on their karma, right? If they have good karma, then they can be reborn in a good realm, right? So if they do not have enough good karma, then they back down they go, right? Either to human or maybe lower realms, right? Like animals or ghosts or even hell realms. So this is like the cycle of life, the wheel of life. So we go up and down like a roller coaster. So there are some deities who are more we call it wise, right? So they want to do some investment. So where can they invest? So they come to this human realm, come to the human. So in the human realm, then there are opportunities, for people to do good and bad and whatever not. So for certain particular group of deities, they would sort of invest in good humans. So they, according to, from what I know, they have certain divine, we call it senses. So let's say for their eyes, their vision. So if a person is a wholesome person, they will appear bright. And if they are unwholesome, then they will appear dark. So same with the scent. If a person is unwholesome, they appear smelly. And if they are wholesome, they appear fragrant. So the deities will sort of be attracted to wholesome people, right? And they will help in their whatever capabilities they can. So some of them might offer their sort of services in the form of something like a bouncer, right? So if they are sort of evil spirits, because then they will sort of at least protect you from harm. So these are the role of certain deities. So and in Buddhist cosmology, not all deities are good in a sense. Some of them are demons, but they also classify as deities. So these demons, some of them are predatory in nature. They feed on humans, they feed on their life force and whatever not. So these are the beings that they will protect us from. Okay, next. Okay, so the next tree, something more back down to earth, right? We are going to talk about one of the benefits: neither fire, poison, nor weapons can touch one. Okay, so I will talk about this first. So if a person take this statement literally, right, then they might get into trouble. So after practicing meditation, please do not try to do some stunt and expect yourself to be immune from injury, right? So the whole idea is sometimes got to do with interpretation, right? Interpretation. I give an example. So the best example would be the Buddha, of course, because the Buddha, right, is known, regarded to be perfect in loving kindness, or perfect in all the qualities. So, using as the Buddha example, right? So, does the Buddha, is the Buddha free from injury, from physical, maybe weapons, for example, right? So, there's this case study of this certain monk called Devadatta. Right, Devadatta is the cousin of the Buddha, and also something like the bad person in the Buddhist story. Right, so he has plans to, assassinate the Buddha. He has plans to assassinate the Buddha. So he sort of planned to roll a large boulder off the cliff to try to crush the Buddha. The Buddha was walking underneath the valley, the slope. So he pushed down this huge boulder, and the boulder happened to split into several pieces, and one of the pieces managed to hit the Buddha. And the Buddha's feet, right, which was hit by one of the rocks, got injured and it bled. Right, so the Buddha was bleeding. Right, so the Buddha had contact, right, with the so-called the murder weapon, right, and he got injured. Right, so this is one example, one case study. The second case study would be if you talk about poison, right? The poison. So I believe most of the Buddhists here know the life story of the Buddha and the last moments of the Buddha's life. It was commonly said that he passed away due to food poisoning. Right, he passed away due to food poisoning. Right, somebody offered some food to the Buddha, and the food wasn't probably in a good condition. There are different interpretations. Some say it's pork, some say it's the pig's food, whatever it is. So it didn't go well with the Buddha's tummy. So he got food poisoning. Right. So eventually the Buddha passed away into parinibbana. So how can we then interpret this statement? Right, like in one of the previous talks in the retreat, sometimes in the Buddhist we make this statement: when we practice the Dhamma is to overcome birth, aging, sickness, and death. Right. So when we talk about overcoming birth, aging, sickness, and death, does that mean we will not get sick? No. When we practice Buddhism, we will not get old. Right. Everybody's wish. Right? Nobody wants to get old, sick, or die. Right. So what do we mean by overcoming? Right. This old age, sickness, and death, right? It's actually the mind. If a person practices, let's say, this loving kindness until the mind is equanimous, or even better still, liberated, right? Then the mind won't be affected by this, fire, poison, weapons, and that kind of stuff. So the mind is unshaken. The mind is beyond this kind of physical harm, physical pain. I give another example. The next best example would be the Buddha's left-hand disciple, Venerable Moggallana, right? Venerable Maha Moggallana. He is known to be the foremost in psychic power, right? Foremost in psychic power. So, of course, for those who knows his life story, right? His cause of death is also quite tragic, right? He was beaten to death, right? Beaten to death, right? Because his past life, he did something wrong, he harmed his parents and whatever not. So at the last moment, he was beaten, right? Beaten to death by some bandits or whatever it is, and he eventually passed away, right? So based on the two examples on the right, so popularly in the probably in the Thai culture or the Siamese kind of Buddhism, right? They have certain folk belief that if a person wears Buddha amulet. Some of them, depending on how they want to sell it, they will market it in a way that you wear the amulet, you will be immune from harm, immune from harm, right? Immune from danger, right? So there's a Chinese saying, 刀枪不入, right? So a person wearing certain amulet or whatever it is will get special kind of magical protection. You'll be immune from bullets and knives and whatever not, right? So if the Buddha himself, can get hurt, right? So how can the amulet, right, protect you from being harmed, right? So there's a popular story I think I heard from Ajahn Brahm regarding Ajahn Chah. So he probably give a talk and use the story multiple times about Ajahn Chah on amulet. So there's a particular Thai soldier. A Thai soldier, he got conscripted to the army, right? So of course, like most men, they want to be safe. They go to the place of worship, and they want to seek some form of protection, right? So he looked for this venerable Ajahn Chah, right? When he was still alive, so he looked for venerable Ajahn Chah and requested for an amulet to protect him from bullets, right? Because in the army, you might be in front of a battlefield at the front lines and you might get shot, right? So he requested for this protection. So Venerable Ajahn Chah would say, no, he doesn't have such amulets. No amulets. Then for the second time, please, Venerable Ajahn Chah, I know you are very popular, famous forest monk, your meditator. I'm sure you have some powerful amulet to protect me. So for the second time, Venerable Ajahn Chah, he refused. He said no, he doesn't have such amulets. And for the third time, so this time he asked Venerable Ajahn Chah, I come to the temple regularly, I feed you, I offer lots of items and stuff like that. I just come here to seek for some little protection. So not giving up this request. So Venerable Ajahn Chah finally gave in, okay, and he said, okay, you want the Buddha amulet, Buddha image to protect you? Okay, we have one down the hallway. If you go down, right down to the meditation hall, right at the side, we have one storeroom, and we have a very big Buddha statue. Spare one, a spare big Buddha statue, right? You just hide behind the statue, then you'll be blocked from bullets, right? So this is the story. So it's a practical kind of Buddha statue that protects you from bullets. Okay, so actually in Buddhist teaching, in fact, the forest tradition sort of started to more or less steer away from these folk kind of practices, customs and practices. But no, there are still monks who delve into it, and that's the sad part. And if we look at the bottom right of the picture, you see some these again Shaolin monks, performing. We call it some demonstrations and their performances on probably using the chi to protect their body, right? So they train long and hard. Their body is very strong. They can withstand injury, from weapons, right? So of course, in the Buddha's time, I don't think they practiced this. If not, the monks would have lots of injury-free scenarios. Okay, so again, right, we are not practicing loving kindness to such an extent, where we expect our body, to be free from this kind of physical harm, right? So again, I've explained the interpretation. It's to overcome the physical kind of we call it restriction, so the mind can overcome its physical pain. Okay, then the next one, the benefit will be quick mental concentration. Quick mental concentration. So earlier on, somebody asked, a question regarding concentration, right? So here we go. So okay, traditionally, right, in the most of the suttas, the instruction of loving kindness is to radiate in various directions, right? There's no sort of imagining of various groups of people in the, let's say, in the post-canonical kind of method would be to, let's say, have loving kindness, radiate loving kindness to your loved ones, to your friends, and followed by your neutral parties, and followed by hostile groups of people. There's a sequence, right? Whereas in the sutta method, somehow there's no sequence as such, so it's more like radiate in direction. So all beings in the east, south, west, north, and that kind of stuff. So when a person radiate in various directions and sort of expand the mind, and loving kindness, because it is invisible, right? Loving kindness has no form, right? So loving kindness can actually reach formless concentrations, right? So most of the four paras, four sublime states, can reach very high levels of concentration. Like again, when we talk about the drawbacks of certain meditation objects, like even things like chanting mantras alone, right? Chanting mantras alone without combining with other meditation objects such as breath. If you just do some mantra chanting alone, a person can, if they do it correctly, also enter formless concentration. But the drawback is they do not know which level. They do not know which level. If let's say a person does enter these certain levels of concentration, they just know very calm, very peaceful, but what level they don't know. They don't know, right? They just know it's calm and peaceful. Maybe sometimes they might be very good in certain verbal description, maybe they tell you, oh, very spacious or very whatever it is, right? Then they can give certain description, but they do not know what level of concentration, what kind of classification, right? So, so far, only the breath meditation has the step by step, level by level, from first level to second level, third and fourth, all the way to the 8th level of concentration. So this is the benefit of the breath meditation. The plus point is you're able to differentiate if you do it correctly and with guidance, of course. But the drawback is it requires too much technical instructions in the breath meditation, too technical, right? And sometimes not easy for the masses to follow. Not easy for the masses to follow. So simpler practices, like reciting mantras, reciting chanting, let's say even like loving kindness meditation, something easier, right? Of course, it get you to high levels of concentration, but the person may not know it. Right? So this is there are some pros and cons. So the practice of loving kindness, again, the good point, right? The pros is that a person can practice throughout the day. Like for breath meditation, it's encouraged when you do it in sitting posture, when you're still. Then you can focus on calming the mind and observing the various levels and so on. But if a person do loving kindness, it's an emotional kind of mindfulness. Emotional kind of mindfulness. Let's say a person can get, let's say, angry the whole day, right? A person can get angry while eating, angry at work, angry while talking, angry while walking. So loving kindness is actually the opposite. It's exactly the opposite. So if a person applies thoughts of goodwill, so this emotional positiveness can be done throughout the day in your daily activities. So this is the plus point. You can actually practice them in your day-to-day moment. So this is the loving kindness practice. Okay, then if a person practices loving kindness regularly, right, then it should beautify one's facial expression. right? So earlier on, I talked about a person smiling, right? So if a person wants to, let's say, save money on beauty products, right? Then you can practice loving kindness, right? So no matter how much beauty products a person put, or how much even cosmetic surgery, if you have a frowning face, you have a frowning face. So that's the end of the story. So you want to appear, more pleasant, more approachable, more friendly. It's the inner vibe. Yeah, it's the inner kind of emotion, your intention. So this is the we call the benefit of loving kindness. So it's very important, right? Okay, then the next one. Okay, then the last two, right? Last two benefits of loving kindness will be, one would be peaceful, right? A person, let's say the last moment in life, right? They will have a peaceful passing away. And if they sort of haven't reached any form of realization, if they do not have any form of insight, or any form of enlightenment, or whatever you want to call it, at least bare minimum, right? They can be reborn in one of the Brahma realms. So in the Buddhist cosmology, there are many, many levels of Brahma. So like different, something like different countries, different sort of world systems of Brahmas, right? So a person can be reborn into the different Brahma worlds depending on what kind of concentration they reach, right? So this is the at least the minimum. Okay, so I've covered the 11. I leave some time for Q&A, right? We have a Q&A segment before we do the practical sitting meditation. Any questions from the chat or from the comments on Facebook, or even live here from Zoom, right? Audiences here. No questions. Wow, all, all okay. I don't know.
Bante,
Yeah.
You mentioned about the 4 Brahma Viharas.
Yeah.
Metta is only one of the 4 Brahma Viharas.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So in the practice of metta, then how do we incorporate the other 3, or is it all this is built in one?
A person can incorporate the other 3, but if a person practices one, right, this metta enough, then the rest they sort of also increase proportionally with metta, right? Because the purpose of, the practice of metta is to wish all beings well and happy, right? So the let's say the compassion part, you wish beings free from suffering, right? So you people to have harm, you wish to harm others. So how can you wish beings well and happy and wish them harm at the same time, right? So this is a contradiction. So all these 4 Brahma Viharas are related. So things like mudita, this appreciative joy, you wish all beings to not be separated from what they have achieved. So this is the mudita, appreciative joy. So of course, if a person have loving kindness, then if a person achieve something, then you feel jealous. you want them to not get what they want. So it's contradicting, yeah. So if a person practice loving kindness, right, the 4 of them they follow suit. And if a person do have we call it concentration from loving kindness or whichever of the Brahma Viharas, then the equanimity will be up another level. Right? The mind will have developed equanimity from this concentration. All right. So does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So, Bhante, can you explain a bit more on the metta with the concentration? So, metta is something that you mentally recite,
Yeah.
over and over again. And when we do that, we're actually moving from different individuals. We start with the beings in front, then ourselves, the beings at the back, and all that. So, in this process of reciting, where the words are constantly changing, can Bhante explain a bit how does the concentration arose in the whole process?
Oh, okay. This loving kindness practice is more spatial, right? Spatial. That means you have to place your attention in the various directions, right? Of course, if a person just recite, it's more like a mantra kind of formula.
Right.
But if in loving kindness, you have to sort of radiate the loving kindness in the various directions. So you have to extend the attention to the front, the left, and so on and so forth. So if let's say you are looking at the screen right now, your attention is to the front, right? So it's more of expanding this attention into the various directions. Okay? So it's a kind of a skill set. So eventually, if a person were to extend his attention to the whole world or the whole universe, it's rather spacious. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Bhante.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I think there's a question on the chat in the Zoom, right? So I'll take a look. Okay, so there's a question. Bhante, is metta or loving kindness practice directed by one's intention or mental thoughts? Is there a deeper source to generate this metta energy within the citta? So I think I've answered that. So it's got to do with the attention, right? So also, does metta practice adds one to the paramis, right? So yes, if you talk about certain segment of the we call it the later editions of Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism, then we would, yes, definitely help improve on the paramis, right? So like earlier on in the earlier few Nikayas, there are some scholars who believe the paramis are later concepts, right? Concepts that come later, right? Most of the suttas, the Buddha don't really mention about paramis, right? So, but of course, if you believe in paramis, yes, it does help improve in the paramis. Okay, so I hope that answers your question.
Okay, excuse me, Bhante, I have a question here.
Okay, all right.
You were mentioning about radiating loving kindness in various directions.
Yes, correct.
But you also mentioned about radiating loving kindness to individual people, which we are now more used to it now. So which method is correct?
Okay, yeah, this is a very good point. In last week's session, I mentioned loving kindness have, or the four Brahma Viharas have direct and indirect enemies, right? Direct and indirect enemies. Like indirect enemies would be personal affection, personal affection, right? So if a person, right from the start of practicing loving kindness, they straight think of their loved ones, there is a high chance that a person might be developing personal affection instead of loving kindness. So they can spend many hours going through all their list of, maybe they have thousands of contacts in their Facebook, all our friends and families or whatever it is. Then they spend hours practicing personal affection. So may not hit the right target. So we can do experiment now actually. So if let's say, okay, I need you to you just observe your emotion. If a person just feel, you wish your family members well, you just make a wish, you wish your family members well. So you just observe this emotion. Take a note. right? You have certain emotion generated when you have this thought, right? You wish your family members well. So you have one kind of emotion, right? Although it's positive, yes, it's good. Okay, now we have the other, we call it the original sutta instruction. You wish all beings well and happy. And then you observe any difference in the emotion. Right? A bit more unconditional, right? So, yeah, so that's the difference. Because if a person, let's say from a beginner's point of view, right? If a person straight away, let's say, do this, all your friends and families, they develop a lot of this clinging, right? It may feel good, yeah, you may be good, well-wishing and that kind of stuff, but very hard to break away to the boundless state. Whereas if a person from a beginner, they straight away do the all beings well and happy part, but at least they have a feel of what is the more boundless kind of loving kindness is like. So at least they have a control, something like test control. They know at least they have a benchmark. Okay, this is we call it the boundless loving kindness. Would be something like that. Will be something like a benchmark, right? So yeah, this is my take on it. All right. Okay, any other questions?
Bante, still on metta, can I
yes.
check? You were saying it's better to go to all beings, very general, not to get personal, so that we don't have the clinging.
Yeah, correct.
But before we start, we always metta ourselves first, right? We have to metta ourselves first. Isn't that also personal?
The first phase of the meditation, we sort of break it down into parts. You wish your hair, your nails, your do not try to wish my hair well and happy, right? Wish all the hair well and happy, right? We try to remove the ego, because in sort of Buddhist psychology, right? Buddhist psychology, we call it feelings, right? This Vedana is very natural. If a person think of your own body, you have certain feeling. You think of your friends, you do have certain feeling. You think of somebody you sort of dislike, you have certain feeling, right? You cannot make it all the same, right? All these are non-self, right? So if you try to cultivate and make all the feelings as self, you want to have total mastery of feelings, you want to have all the same feeling throughout, I think it's quite a tedious task. Right? Naturally, whenever a contact, then the 5 aggregates will pop up with some random feeling. Right?
But Bante, when we are sending radiating metta to beings in front and the back and the back and all the directions, before that we have to come back to ourselves. So when we come back to ourselves, we are also radiating metta to ourselves, right?
Yeah, also, yeah, correct.
It means we say, may all beings in the front be well and happy. Yeah. And then after that, we say, may I be well and happy. Correct. When we come back to ourselves, is that what we do?
It's a condition, we call it conditioning, right? Directional conditioning. So in the mindfulness, 4 foundation of mindfulness, we talk about being mindful internally and externally. So when a thing is near or far, right? So this is the kind of spatial kind of training, yeah.
So that is the method. That means when we say, may all beings in the front be happy, well and happy, then after that, when you say, come back to ourselves, I have to say, may I be well and happy. Is that it?
Also can, yeah, also can. Yeah, but I would prefer if, let's say, we rephrase the sentence, we wish this body well and happy.
This body.
We try to remove the I or the ego out of the equation. Yeah.
This body.
Not that we are being self-denial, but this when a person wish I, then it kind of hinders, right? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Fadul.
Okay, all right.
So, Bhante, thank you for the clarification because I was about to ask a question related to what Sister Angie was trying to ask.
Okay, all right.
We start off by saying that, I remember you, Bhante, you said should not say my hair, right?
Yeah, correct.
My hair, my nail, right? We say that
Yeah.
general, the hair.
Yeah, correct.
And then when it comes to the metta part, now you have clarified it. So say that may I, because I was trying to figure out, one part of it you say focus on I, and next part of it you say, may I be well and happy. And I say something is not right,
Yeah, and that is also post-canonical instruction, starting from yourself first. You wish yourself well and happy, then followed by your loved ones and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So even in the Asubha meditation, right, the instruction, if let's say from Pali, will be Kesa, Loma, Naka, Danta, hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin. Right? They never mention my hair, my nails, my teeth, my skin, right? So the I or the whatever ego is sort of try to remove from the phrasing. Yeah.
All right, Bhante. There's a question in Facebook.
Okay, all right.
Metta radiation is not a mere radiations, meditations or mantra. It should be more of radiating happy or loving feelings.
Okay, there's a comment, right?
The question is it should be more radiating happy or loving feelings?
Okay. Yeah, so metta is actually part of right thought. Yeah, part of right thought. So when we, even things like even within the mind, it doesn't have to be spatial or directional. So you wish, let's say, the hair well and happy, or the nails or teeth well and happy. So it can be a small area. So for the breath, also the same thing. We wish the breath well and happy, the inhale, exhale well and happy. So it's the thought, right? So it's the intention. So in the thought of goodwill can reduce this aversion, then it's correct, right? So that's the first and foremost. And if you want to talk about radiating to different directions, that is the next step. Okay, so any other questions? No more comments on the Facebook?
No more questions.
Okay, all right. So Zoom also no question, eh? Okay, if there's no question, then I think we can move on to this. Wow, today long lecture, longer lecture. We are ending at 10, right, today? Yep. Okay, so we have like half an hour of sitting. Do you need a break? Maybe 5-minute break first. We give you a 5-minute break. So you can do maybe some stretching or go to the bathroom. Then we come back at 9:30. Okay. At 9:30 we start, right? For the guided session. Once we are ready and seated in a comfortable position, right, then we can close our eyes. Okay, and we are going to start with the routine. So we are going to first wish, right? All the hairs well and happy. So it's a bit of visualization. Right? We are doing these body parts, starting from the hair. So all the hairs on the head, may they be well and happy. And we wish all the hairs all the way down to the rest of the body. May all the hairs be well and happy. So once we have thoughts of non-hatred, then we introduce the thoughts of non-greed, right? So all these hairs are subject to birth and death. They grow long, they get dirty, oily, sweaty. They crack when it's dry. They turn white when it's old. And eventually they fall off. Every day we have lots of hair falling off. And we can ask ourselves in our mind, are these hairs truly self? Are the hairs truly you? Right? Can you tell the hairs not to go through this birth and death? And the next part of the body, we are going to visualize the nails, right? You are going to wish all the nails well and happy. May all the fingernails be well and happy. And may all the toenails be well and happy. And all these nails are subject to birth and death. Right? They grow long. Right? Then the nails will get dirty. They discolor. They have diseases like malnutrition. And they go through wear and tear. Have scratches, cracks, or they even chip off. And we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through this birth and death? And the next part of the body, we are going to visualize the teeth, all the teeth in the mouth. May they be well and happy. So all the upper rows of teeth, may they be well and happy. And all the lower rows of teeth, may they be well and happy. And all these nails, all these teeth are subject to birth and death. They change in shape and size. They get dirty. They discolor. All the plaque buildup, right, turn yellowish, and they turn brown. And when it decays, turn black. And they have these tooth cavities, they grow holes, and they get shaky, and eventually they fall off. And we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? Can we tell the teeth not to go through this birth and death? And the next we are going to visualize the skin, right? So the skin is the organ that surrounds the whole body, right? We are going to wish all the skin well and happy, right? So from head to toe, may all the skin be well and happy. And all this skin are subject to birth and death. And they get oily, sweaty, dirty. They wrinkle up when it's old. And they have all kinds of skin problems. They'll crack when it's dry, turn red, skin irritation, rashes, allergies, boils, pimples, etc. And the dead skin, they fall off every day. And we can ask ourselves, are these skin truly self? right? Can we tell the skin not to go through this birth and death? And we move on to the second phase of meditation, which is feeling the breath. Right, so there's no visualization involved, and this one is just using our sense of touch. So where to feel, right? Below the nostril, above the upper lip, right? One small point, right? No need to feel your windpipe, your lungs, your diaphragm, right? Just one small area below the nostril. So every time when there's in and out breath, right? Let it be natural. No need to control the breathing. So whenever there's inhalation, we wish the breath well. Exhalation, wish the breath happy. Right? Gentle attention. No need to force or coerce the mind to be there. So this is an important step, right? To make friends with the breath. So the benefit of loving kindness to help improve concentration, right? Because this the cause of desire, this greed, hatred, delusion, right? So if we reduce hatred, you remove much of desire. So the mind will naturally settle down as a byproduct. So we emphasize more on creating the cause, focus on the process, on this loving kindness. Yeah, making friends with the breath. Inhale well, exhale happy. Okay, once you are at peace with the breath, right, rather calm with loving kindness, then we add the other ingredient, the thoughts of non-greed. Right, so this in and out breath goes through many cycles, micro cycles of birth and death. Right, it's an invisible kind of birth and death going on. So we are using our sense of touch, right, our tactile sensations to feel the changes in the sensations. So every change of sensation is a birth and death. So we classify into 4 groups called the 4 elements: earth, fire, wind, and water. Okay? Nothing mystical about it. So the earth element represents hard and soft kind of sensations. When you breathe in and out, right? The contact of the air in our skin and the breath, right? Sometimes it can be hard or soft. So if there's any change in the density, then there's a birth and death of the earth element going on. And fire is the hot and cold, right? So if you breathe in and out, any changes in the temperature, right? Then there's a birth and death of the fire element. Wind is basically the movements, fast and slow movements. So if we observe any changes in the breathing rate, then there's a birth and death of the wind element. And the water element, moist or dry. So when we breathe in and out, any changes in humidity, and there's a birth and death of the water element. Right, so there's no need to purposely generate these sensations. Right, when we feel this small area, whichever sensation that is most obvious, right, at any point of time, then we have to observe the birth and death of those elements of the breath. We have to keep observing the birth and death, the rising and falling, or you call it the impermanence of the breath, until the mind settles to this thing called the stability point. That means the mind will settle until it cannot settle any further. Right? The mind will keep on settling and settling until it becomes stable. So you'll notice any form of clinging, any form of reaction, right? Then the mind will get agitated. Any time you reflect on letting go, and the mind will settle. Right? Contemplation of impermanence, right? The birth and death of the breath will help the mind to settle. So the objective is to find peace, right? So to achieve peace, when we call it multitasking, when you're observing your breath, and then later we will multitask further. So we first deal with one small area, right? If you cannot even handle your breath, then you can forget about other things. So that calmness, right? We can call it equanimity if you want. One small degree of equanimity, right? Not so shaken with restlessness. Anytime when the mind is restless, then you get agitated. When you let go, then there's this peace. So you just need to be familiar with this calmness. And we try to maintain this calmness throughout the entire course of meditation. So when a person is contemplating on birth and death, right? And there's a form, some people will develop a form of compassion. Okay, then once your mind, you think it's stable and peaceful, then while maintaining this peace, right, we are going to wish all beings in front well and happy. So we're actually conditioning our mind to sort of be multitasking, right, and still be peaceful. And then we return back to ourselves. And we can now wish all beings behind, may they be well and happy. And then we return to ourselves. Next, we wish all beings on the left, may they be well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings on the right, may they be well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. Next, we wish, may all beings above be well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. Next, we wish all beings below, may they be well and happy. And then we come back to ourselves. And we can wish this entire body well and happy again. So from head to toe, we wish this entire body well and happy. I feel the entire body with loving kindness. And eventually we are going to radiate this loving kindness to all directions, may all beings above, below, and all across be well and happy. All right, first we start off with the house, right? We wish all beings in your home be well and happy. And we extend this loving kindness to all beings in your surrounding neighborhood. May they be well and happy. And we can extend this loving kindness further to the entire country. Right? May all beings in your country be well and happy. And we extend this loving kindness to the entire continent. May all beings in the continent be well and happy. And then we can extend the loving kindness to the entire earth. May all beings in this planet be well and happy. So you can wish for world peace, but make sure the mind is also peaceful, right? And eventually, we can wish all beings in the entire universe, may they be well and happy. So you want to practice loving kindness with right view, right? Then you need to be mindful of non-clinging, right? If a person without mindful of this peace or non-clinging, yeah, they can send their mind all out and have a very different result. Okay, so again in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, right? Buddha mentioned in the discourse of loving kindness, if a person were to maintain this boundless loving kindness, be it standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, then this will be the highest conduct, right? The highest practice. So with that in mind, right, this is the most important message in the whole talk, right? So if you're able to maintain this loving kindness throughout your entire day, right, for probably the next week until we meet, then it's a job well done. And with that in mind, you can gently open your eyes to formally end the meditation, but mentally we still carry on this loving kindness. Okay. Yep, so it's about 10 o'clock. All right, so is this the end already?
Welcome latecomers.
Here to rejoice and dedicate merits. Okay, so now is the dedication part, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we dedicate merits. So this one is a deliberate dedication of merits to the guardian deities and other beings involved, seen or unseen beings. So we can do this chant. Right? Akasata jabhumata devanaga mahidika punyang tang anumoditva Chirang rakantu loka sasanang Etavata cha ampehi Sampadang punya sampadang Sabbe deva, sabbe bhuta, sabbe satta anumodantu Sabba sampati siddhya. Transference of merits to the departed. Idang minyatinang hotu, sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang minyatinang hotu, sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang minyatinang hotu, sukhita hontu nyatayo. Patana aspiration, imina punya kamena, mame bala samagamo, satang samagamo hotu, yawa nibbana patiya. Next slide. Oh, that's the end. Okay, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right. So
thank you again, Bhante,
all right, no problem.
for being with us. So
Okay.
fast, we'll meet again in August already.
Oh yeah, August, yeah.
Very fast.
Yeah. So maintain the metta and sleep happily, yeah.
Yeah, on the side note, next Monday, we are having Brother Ling Huat will be sharing with us Mangala Sutta. So this session will be on Facebook only, Facebook Live only. Okay.
Okay.
That's
Right.
all from me.
Okay, sadhu.
Anything else,
Bye.
Brother Casey?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think we're going to practice a bit more and meet again next week.
Cool. All right.
Sadhu.
Sadhu.
Okay, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Good night.
Bye.
Sadhu.